You know, my all-time favorite movie, you know this, is Pulp Fiction. Still stands the test of time since 1994. And one of my favorite lines is toward the end from The Wolf, when he says, "Just because you are a character doesn't mean you have character." Bill Walton had both. Bill Walton, by all accounts, was a man of great character, and he certainly was a character. Most people, or younger people, I should say, not most people, younger people know him more for his broadcasting idiosyncrasies, if you will, his broadcasting quirks. But now, his heyday, his height at UCLA and then for the Trailblazers preceded me, or at least I was too little to have appreciated it. I was barely old enough to appreciate his contributions to the '86 Celtics beyond the clips of him waving the towel. I know he meant more to the team than that. I'm just saying I was 7 years old at the time. So the player Bill Walton is something of a legend for me. What he did, succeeding Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then Lou Alcindor at UCLA under John Wooden. His performance in, I think it was it the national title game when he went 21 or 22? Is that the national title game? Is that right, Mike? I don't. No? Yes?
Maybe.
No? You remember?
Maybe. Don't know.
Okay.
Don't know that.
The one, yeah. Once had one of the greatest shooting performances of all time. I'll look that up. I should look that up already. I beg your pardon. Anyway, his accolades, his many accolades as a player, the MVP in Portland when they won the championship, the franchise's only championship. I also, when Nikola Jokic was first coming to prominence, and before him, Arvydas Sabonis, when we talked about them being the best passing big men, the predecessor that they were often compared to was Bill Walton, in terms of his passing acumen for a big man. And I fondly remember our former colleague at the Boston Globe, Bob Ryan, talk about hills to die on. Bob Ryan famously used to say that if he had one game to win and the fate of humanity rested on winning that game, his first pick was Bill Walton.
Bill Walton.
Picking Bill Walton.
He said it all the time. All the time. Yep.
All the time. Like that was his guy. So passed away at 71 after a battle with cancer. Rest in peace. But the player was brilliant. The person was one of a kind. And the country loved this man. Like, people loved Bill Walton. And that is certainly a life well lived when you leave, it's nothing but love. There's nothing but love for Bill Walton.
Yeah, and he was a fun guy, and he overcame so much too. And I think that's when I mentioned the word, inspiring earlier. He was an inspiring person if you knew his story growing up in California. He was a stutterer growing up. And so, like, the irony of a guy who really struggled and really worked at being able to communicate his thoughts, and it was something that it embarrassed him initially, but he got it under control. So to have a stutterer who becomes one of America's most beloved broadcasters is a great story.
That's awesome.
And also overcoming a lot of the injuries that he did. Now, you talk about your favorite movie.
Yes.
One of my favorite sports books ever is by the late, great David Halberstam. It's called The Breaks of the Game. And Halberstam was following the Portland Trailblazers, Bill Walton's Portland Trailblazers, and Dr. Jack Ramsey, the year after they won the championship. And part of the breaks was that they won a championship in 1977, 1978. They're off to a great start. Bill Walton gets injured, and the Trailblazers were never the same. Walton goes off to the Clippers, the San Diego Clippers, and eventually winds up in Boston. Yeah, winds up in Boston.
He's one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history, right? Bill Walton, like, what could he have been minus the injuries?
If he had been healthy. He'd been healthy. You know, he had foot problems, just off and on, like just always trying to overcome injuries. But when he got to the Celtics, that was one of his rare healthy years. I think he played all 82 games that year. He was Sixth Man of the Year and contributed to one of the best teams in NBA history. But everybody who has had a conversation with Bill Walton. I'm fortunate enough to say I've been a part of those conversations. You never forget it. You never forget it. I mean, he just has his phraseology, his perspective. He was, at times, he gave you more than what you expected, and at times he gave you exactly what you expected. I mean, he was a guy who loved the Grateful Dead and loved to just kind of be with nature and counterculture and all of that. So there really won't be, there's not another broadcaster like Bill Walton. I can't think anybody who reminds me of Walton. They don't teach you this in broadcasting school. So I'm just glad we all got a chance to listen to him. We all got a chance to, if you didn't get a chance to watch him play, the highlights are out there. An incredible life, an incredible career.
Yeah. And speaking, it's on top of my head, but yeah, I was right. I just want to make sure I didn't get, it was a 73 title game against Memphis, 21-22. It was a title game. Just wanted to make sure I didn't get that wrong. I always shared a screen with him once or twice. I don't remember, and I would remember something like this. I don't remember ever being in the presence of Bill Walton, but I have shared a screen with him, and that was memorable. So that was the best conversation that I could recall. And I don't know how much of a conversation it was with Bill, in a good way. In a good way. Like, you know, the old saying is you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and listen twice as much as you talk. Bill was one of those dudes you wanted to listen to. Like, you'd rather listen to Bill than talk. Like, if you were doing more of the talking when you were around Bill Walton, then you were doing it wrong. You know, like, he was somebody you should shut up and just listen to him tell you stories, and listen to him pontificate and philosophize on all things life and culture. So, no, you know, definitely what you think of when you think of authenticity, when you think of living life to the fullest and each day like it was your last. I had no idea he was sick. I don't know how public it was that he was sick. The first thought I had, Mike, you know, is that 71 feels younger the older you get.
Yeah, right.
Like, 71 does not feel old. You know what I mean? That feels like, wow, he was only 71. 20 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, it's 71. Like, no, that's young in the grand scheme of things. But, you know, he made the years and the moments count. And he was an institution, man. He was an institution. Like, he was, and what I mean is he was just somebody that was such a part of our basketball experience beyond his playing days. There's a John Madden-ness to Bill Walton in many respects. Had a brief but brilliant.
That's a fair.
But brilliant professional playing, or in Madden's case, coaching career.
That's a good one.
But was probably as famous and as influential to the sport and to the community around the sport.
Quirky,
yes,
too.
right? You know, probably meant as much to the game after he had hung up his sneakers, or for Madden putting down the whistle, as he was, more so, as a broadcaster. So yeah, gone too soon, but definitely made his mark. Rest in peace to the great, one of a kind, one of one, Bill Walton. So, man, that one hit hard. That one hit hard.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you, man. I knew you'd have some thoughts and memories on him. I knew you guys had crossed paths in Boston, and
yeah, definitely.
I knew you had some unique perspective.
And you know what? Last thing I'll say, he would have enjoyed your Miles and Coltrane analogy, because he was prone to like
enjoy.
He would have enjoyed. He would have, because he would go off on tangents. That's what I'm saying. He would go off on tangents during the broadcast. He'd talk about concerts and musicians during the broadcast for like 5-7 minutes. Like, yo, man, there's a game happening. And he would just go out and talk about it. So he would have had something on Miles, something on Coltrane, and he would have enjoyed it. And he probably would have agreed with you, even though that's something. That's some analogy there. I think I'm going to go put on Kind of Blue.
I gave you a lot today. Yeah.
I'm going to put on Kind of Blue.
Yeah, I gave you a lot today. I gave you a lot between Kyrie as the GOAT offensive player, and I gave you a lot there. Yeah. Have fun with that. All right, man.
Hey, I think I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll talk to you later, bro.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.